listening to what the clinicians and what politicians in Limerick are saying, it seems that the plan is to make the site in Raheen like a super hospital, to have an emergency department there, and the site in Dolan where UHL is at the moment will be downgraded. So that won't have an ED, and we're back to the same situation we're in at the moment, which is one ED for almost 500,000 people. Now, that site in Raheen is not going to have an ED on it probably for 10 or 15 years because it's going to take that long to build it. So I would be saying to the minister when she comes to Clare that the people in this county can't wait 10 or 15 years. And even if we could wait 10 or 15 years, we need to have something in our own county because our population justifies it. The distances that people are travelling justifies it. You know, we heard in our meeting in the Old Ground there 2 weeks ago that GPs don't want to work in Clare because there isn't an emergency department in the county to send people to if they need tests or if they need admission to hospital. You know, these are all huge concerns, and I'm really glad that the minister is coming to Clare so that we have a chance to talk to her about this. I have to acknowledge that Deputy Joe Cooney did a lot of work in the background pushing for her to come to meet us. And, you know, we're working on another document. I have about half done, and I would be sitting down and I would be presenting her with these facts because at the end of the day, the Midwest is the only region at the moment relying on one ED. And that's not sustainable into the future. Our population is growing year on year, and every other region has a minimum of 3. Most regions in the country have 5. And here we are in the Midwest with just 1, and that's not acceptable, and it's not sustainable, and we're not going to stand for it.
But with that said, the Health Minister did make it very clear when she was speaking at the announcement about the new site in Raheen last week that this could be option B, option C+. Plus, we've seen in historical letters from the HSE about their reason to explain the downgrading of Ennis and Nina and St John's, and particularly in relation to Ennis, that the HSE is on record in the past of saying that they couldn't recruit consultants to staff an emergency department in Ennis or to sustain a Model 3 hospital in Ennis. And we know that that is something that anecdotally is still floated around, that it's difficult to bring those staff to Ennis. So when GPs are saying that they don't want to work here because there's no emergency department, I suppose you can see how that's going to be an obstacle to overcome as well, because that attitude is still out there.
Yeah, so back in 2009 when the ED in Ennis was downgraded to the 12-hour service, the talk from the HSE was that they couldn't recruit because the hospital in Ennis didn't have the throughput for the clinicians to maintain their standards. The population at the time was 80,000, and most of the population at the time, if you look at the population pyramid at the time, most of the population was aged under 65. So they didn't have the pressures and they didn't have the number of admissions from people in Clare going to an acute hospital. Now we're in 2026, the majority of our population is over 65. The population is 130,000. And if you're talking about 10 years' time, we will have the population to sustain the services and to sustain the clinical standards for doctors in the hospital, because our population has grown by so much. So that argument doesn't hold water anymore, in our view.
And just finally, Angela, I know your main priority, and I've no doubt of this document as well, will be to push for additional services and, of course, the new hospital and the hospital in Clare. But realistically, even this site in Raheen will take years to build, years to staff, years to get up and running. It'll take much longer for another site to become available in Clare, for that to be built, for that to be staffed. Will you be pushing the Minister and stressing the need for an immediate air ambulance allocation?
Absolutely, yes. So look, even if the Minister decided tomorrow that Clare was going to get a Model 3 or 4 hospital, it's going to take, as you say, it's going to take a number of years. And in the interim, we need a better ambulance service. We need more ambulances. We need more paramedics, and we need the air ambulance. And I know that if you have an air ambulance and let's say someone has a heart attack in Kilrush, then that's the air ambulance is actually busy then with that patient for the next hour, hour and a half, or whatever. If something happens in North Clare, we need actual ambulances on the ground as well. So it's not just the air ambulance, we need a proper national ambulance service. And I will be talking to the Minister as well about how the ambulance service assets are allocated, because it seems to me that it's ridiculous that an ambulance that could be based in Kilrush could be on a call in Tipperary or on a call in Galway or Mayo because of the way that their dispatch works. So I want to discuss that with the Minister as well, because if we have ambulances that are supposed to be based in Clare, then they should be based in Clare, and they should be in the Midwest region, and they shouldn't be traipsing all around the country because there are shortages of ambulances elsewhere. So the whole National Ambulance Service dispatch system is something that we will be discussing with her, but also the number of actual ambulances on the ground and the age of the ambulances on the ground, and how many of the ambulances that we have today are still going to be in service in 12 or 18 months' time because of the mileage that they're putting up all the time. Because our country it's such a rural county that any ambulance that is based in Clare is doing huge mileage, doing trips in and out to UHL.